As one of the first comments I've ever received said, "Gee, don't invite this guy to a party." So, with that being said, as I will repeat many times as I watch myself make videos, that being said, I've taken the liberty to speed up my 20-minute intro. I'm not going to redo it. I speak monotone, my eyes droop. It's 6 in the morning. I've been up all night. And I appreciate you tuning in. This is a special video, 100 subscribers. It's going to be a mix of this and that, but there's a whole 20-minute intro. So, enjoy the episode. Feel free to skip over, and to your benefit, I've taken the liberty to speed everything up. Now, I don't mean to talk down upon myself. However, I'm very self-aware, so it's an arduous task to watch myself and edit these videos. Thank you for being a subscriber, and if you're not, please subscribe. There's a lot more to come. Not to be all doom and gloom, but things are pretty annoying. And I specifically said that this channel would not be political or anything of the sort, and I'm sticking to it. I wanted to say that I've been doing a lot of thinking, and pretty much one of the thoughts that came to mind was the news has a lot of BS, to put it lightly, and it's easy to lose track in everyday life of the good in the world. And I just want to give people some food for thought, and just keep in mind that everything you see in the news, is it really affecting you in your everyday life? Ask yourself that question, as I have. If it's not, why let it rob you of your peace? I'm not going to get into any specifics, but growing up, it's always been the same thing. And if you're a student of history, as I am, this country's been through much worse. Everything now, including with AI and just the sheer reach of social media, has made it so that everybody has to live in a state of panic. It doesn't need to be the case. If you go back 100 years, everything that happened needed at least a 2 to 3 day buffer before it reached your eyes in the form of a newspaper. Now, everything's reaching your eyes within an instant. But the question remains, does it affect your everyday life? When I reflect inward and I ask my own self that question, it doesn't. I just go about my everyday life and do what makes me happy. I think everybody should do the same, do what makes you happy, and not worry about the news. That being said, it's 5 in the morning. Last night I went to the range around 9:30, and I got done around 11:30. Even if you're not an everyday or avid shooter, or if you don't even shoot at all, finding a hobby that gets your mind off of the everyday, and I'm gonna say a big word here that's pretty annoying. I don't like the word rigmarole. Is very important. Yeah, I said the word rigmarole. So it's very important to find something that makes you happy and that you can at least do once or twice a week. Unfortunately, this winter has been pretty brutal, being in New England, it's nothing out of the ordinary. But within the last 5 years, we haven't had a winter quite as cold and snowy as the one we've had this year. Some people love it. We're overdue for it. Again, just like the news, life goes on. The weather is the weather. It doesn't affect anything, and it shouldn't affect your everyday life. We just roll with the punches. So, back on track here. Last night I went to the range. I took video. A lot of the video, the audio didn't come out because there's a huge air handler for ventilating all the dust or carbon or whatever that comes out when you shoot. So a lot of my audio didn't come out. Hence why I'm doing this intro. A good piece of information that I gathered tonight was how each one of the main pistols in my collection that I would rely on every day for self-defense aim and function. Now, I want to start by saying that tonight I reached a pretty big milestone. On some metric, not big, but to my metrics, pretty big, and I'm proud and excited. I've reached 100 maybe I'll edit that out. It's 5 a.m. after all. I've reached 100 subscribers. Very happy. I never thought I would keep the account alive that long and not delete all my videos or the account itself to see that number. So I'm at 100 subscribers with my most successful video from November having reached 8,700 views. So I'm pretty happy, and I thank all of you for tuning in, and I thank all my 100 subscribers. If you feel like you want to subscribe, I will have a lot more content going forward. It will be different than shooting. I've mentioned this before. As winter loosens its grip on the Northeast and spring comes around, I would really like to make a nice in-depth knife making video, which one way or another I'll make happen, where I'll go over how to temper and forge and heat treat and properly make a blade. There's a lot of videos on the internet of people that make a knife where they either cut it out from a piece of steel and just heat treat it, and there's a lot of good videos where people forge from start to finish and make something spectacular. I will go in depth and show you my method, how I do it. If you have been watching my videos, you'll see that I talk slow and methodically. I have a lot in my mind. I don't go by a script. I'm not reading from anything. So I appreciate you bearing with me and all of the positive input that you guys have. That being said, tonight is another shooting video. Just thinking about editing this video, it's going to be very clip-based. I don't have a lot of good audio from tonight. So for this intro, I'm going to try and kind of give you an overview of what happened. Firstly, I'd like to say, well, not firstly because I've already said a lot. I would like to say that my friends down at Triggerfinger Tactical hooked me up and put me in the system through their kiosk for silencer shop. I was able to procure, another word I hate, I probably pronounced it wrong, a suppressor. I'm not going to give too many details of what it is and what I got. However, check them out, Triggerfinger Tactical in Oakdale, Connecticut. They make things very easy. They're a good shop. They're a young shop. I've known the owner since maybe 3-4 years ago. Down below from Triggerfinger Tactical, you got A&B ammo. He reloads. So tonight was a mix of both of their contributions to my benefit, which was the suppressor and A&B for the ammo. Now, my indoor range only allows for the use of polymer coated or lead. So everything I did tonight may have to be redone with a copper jacketed ammo, different distances. The indoor range where I shot primarily tonight at 25 feet, the outdoor range is 25 yards. So of course that's a further distance and I'm going to have to further adjust my point of aim. As far as the 25 feet goes, that went pretty well for me, getting my 2 dot sights sighted in. One that was attached to my Ruger RXM that was running the suppressor, and the other for my, what has been seen before on the channel, Advantage Arms 22 conversion on my T-Sauce lower, which I adapted a Ruger 1022 rail, in order to adapt, is a rifle dot sight, but it fits on the pistol just as well. And amazingly, out of the box, it was dead on using the pistol rest. The sight itself is by a company called Ozark. It's called a Rhino. I will include, if I can remember, a picture of the listing. It was only $40. Time will tell how it lasts, but it is able to do green and red dot with adjustable size for different lighting. Trying to remember what the Ruger RXM sight is, but it's a mailbox, which is a slang term, but it's an enclosed dot. The optic itself, I haven't seen it available since I purchased it, but I purchased it off Amazon. It was around $130. It's called the Cycle Bear, or Cycle Bear. I could be butchering the name, but it's a clone of a clone, which is originally the Acro, and then the clone of that is the Kraken. But the term used commonly for what kind of optic it is called a mailbox. Again, I would call myself a novice when it comes to some of these terms, and shooting in of itself, just like anybody else. Even though I've been shooting for many years, I've recently taken up a interest in improving and actually getting out to the range multiple times to shoot properly. And that's something in of itself when it comes to becoming a good shooter. It's one thing to shoot, it's another thing to get in practice and learn your weapons and learn proper shooting. Because when it comes down to it, when I get to the range and I shoot, I've learned that a lot of the problems with the guns itself, or themselves, because there's multiple, is me. So I'd be lying to tell you that I'm as good of a shot as a couple of the people I look up to and watch on YouTube, such as Paul Harrell or Hickok 45, amongst others. I've been watching a lot more Paul Harrell videos. He has a lot of good insight. Rest in peace, Paul Harrell. I wish to even have a fraction of his knowledge when it comes to shooting. And one thing I can say on that note is that it's important for you to watch other people shoot. And I'll give you this much. The point of me making half of these videos is to see where I'm messing up and what I need to improve on. My first video on the channel, when I shoot my 1911, I see a lot of issues and a lot of bad habits that I've slowly grown out of, and people have pointed out in the comments what I need to work on, especially anticipating recoil. And what I'd like to say on that topic, again, I'll give another shout out to Triggerfinger. Go see Anthony. He gave me a great deal on that 1911. Anticipating recoil isn't necessarily being afraid of the recoil itself. It's anticipating a failure when you go to shoot, because there is malfunctions that happen. So when a malfunction happens, and this has happened to me tonight with trying to recall which pistol gave me a problem tonight, and I want to say it was the Glock 19X. Once one malfunction happens, you're anticipating another one, and I found that that's my biggest issue. And one thing that's important about getting out to the range and shooting is that you're going to encounter malfunctions, failure to feeds, failure to ejects, etc. And it's going to affect your trigger pull. The other thing too is, at this point, I'm used to recoil and I'm not afraid of what the gun's going to do. I know what the gun's going to do in terms of it working properly in shooting. However, it's easy to get excited, which I do a lot, and shoot the entire magazine and end up not taking your time to focus on your sights and your sight picture and where you're actually aiming. Sometimes when you shoot the first 3 rounds, I find, for me personally, they'll have a nice grouping, and then I'll get a little bit overzealous and start to just pull the trigger thinking that I'm hitting the same spot. You got to remind yourself to slow down and really aim. And the last point I'll bring up, because I could go on forever, is learning how to grip the gun properly. Glocks grip differently than 1911 platform, and so on. Different grip angles affect the way that you aim the pistol. So learning how to properly hold the gun and a stance that works for you, remembering all the little intricacies and basics can become overwhelming. So my overall point is, for myself, and maybe for others, it might help, just slow down. And I don't know where I heard the term before, but it was a good term, and I think probably one of you guys can pinpoint where that came from. The term is, actually, I think it's a wrestling term. If you think you're moving slow, move 2 times slower. It took me a little bit of a learning curve to realize what that meant, but when all your motor skills are being honed in and every factor is being accounted for, moving slow and then doubling down really makes a difference. I don't want to ramble too much. I've already spoke for 20 minutes. Essentially, for this video, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to encompass my previous video, which is part 2 of the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Show you how that shot, because I didn't get too much good video. I only had 50 rounds before I ran out and didn't do enough to get that sighted in properly in terms of using the pistol rest. Then I'm going to transition into using the pistol rest to show you the Glock 17, which I put a Lone Wolf lower on, or frame, the 19X, which I was very impressed with the accuracy, using the pistol rest, which showed me in turn that it's not the pistol, it's me. And then a little clip of me shooting the suppressor, which I was trying to sight in the mailbox to be compatible with the suppressor on the Ruger RXM. That being said, I'll end it with this little side note. The Ruger RXM, now these are 930 FPS rounds, 135 grain. Off the shelf, you're going to mostly find 115 grain, probably 1100 or so feet per second rounds. So that's going to change again where the point of impact is for where I've set the dot to at 25 feet. I also have 124 grain, which is again in the 1100, 1200 FPS range. That's going to further change my point of impact. So for that particular platform, I'm going to have to figure out what sort of ammo I want to use going forward. And I will tell you this, if you're thinking about getting a suppressor, do it sooner than later, and also keep in mind, they get very dirty. Well, I'm out here. Unfortunately, I'm regulated to this 25-yard range, so I'm not going to be able to do too much in terms of sighting in. However, for the heck of it, I'm going to go after these plates with the dot to see if I'm anywhere close, or maybe I hit them. So I hope that in the course of these trials and errors, I find out this dot is sighted in for 25 yards, but where's... All right, the Bodyguard 2.0 comp, 10 round magazine. Like I said before, they don't like to go in with the slide close if you're loading 10. Open up the slide. I'm able to get 2 hands on the weapon. Round locks back. Second mag. Seems like I'm shooting a little low. It's pretty snappy, but it's nothing that I wouldn't expect out of this thing, but the felt recoil is very negligible. So I moved indoors with the Bodyguard as the outdoor range wasn't too good.
This is my first magazine.
The audio wasn't very good here, so I did this voiceover to explain what's going on here. I'm pointing out where my shot picture was with the Viridian dot sight at 25 feet. You can see that I had a high grouping initially, and I was able to lower the dot to get within the bullseye. Again, without the bench rest, it wasn't easy to sight in. In hindsight, I wish I had brought it. But since the filming of this video, I ran out of the ammo, the 380 ammo, to shoot at the indoor range. Right here, I'm waiting for the sight basically to stop moving. Here's an example of what the dot looks like. It's much smaller in real life. You can see a lot of movement from the muzzle of the gun. Trying to find the dot isn't the easiest thing in the world, so it takes a lot of movement to get that dot, not only in picture but on the target. At this point, I've found that the dot wasn't really hitting dead center as I'd like, but it was getting pretty close. There's a few pauses for adjustment here. I've edited those out. In this transition, you can see coming in is the target. Initially, the top left is my first shots. The top right is my third magazine, whereas the center is my second magazine. Right here, I'm kind of explaining what's going on. I'm going to bring the sight back out, the target rather, and do a little bit more shooting. I didn't have a lot of good video here, so I kind of clipped everything together. Bodyguard, it functioned flawlessly. I was very happy with it. For here, I want to say that I'm about to shoot 4 rounds I had left over in the bottom right. Trying to tighten up my grouping and aim steady here. I don't know what the camera's doing at this point. It's moving a lot, but you can see I had a nice little group. So the dot wasn't too far off. I was pretty happy with that little 4-shot group. I think coming up I had 7 shots left.
Pretty happy with that.
So in this group of shots, I kind of did like a rapid fire. So you'll see that grouping open up quite a bit. Kind of seeing how the compensator works. Formed a little arrow. I didn't really recenter my shot after this.
So those are my 7 shots.
Excuse me.
Left.
I didn't recenter my shot after
more
shooting each shot. I just wanted to really test the compensator out. So for day 2, not to really skip over anything, but first I shot my Glock 17. I drew a picture of where it was hitting out of the bench rest. I transition over to the Glock 19 here. I'm using 135 grain, 960 feet per second poly-coated ammo, which is all you're able to use indoors, nothing jacketed with metal. The Glock, having shot low right, needs a little bit of adjustment with the rear sight. However, switching over to the 19X, I almost want to believe there's something going on with the Glock 17 itself. I found with the Glock 17 that aiming with the sights perfectly centered, I had a really good grouping, which all but one flyer made it right through the bullseye. As you'll see, I'll start shooting with one hand, and if I remember correctly, I switch over to two hands after this magazine. These are the stock sights that come with the Glock 19X. So they're from the factory. The ones on the 17, which is not pictured, were installed later on by somebody other than myself years ago. But that grouping kind of speaks for itself. I believe I was shooting 7 rounds here. So I'm going to see if the audio from this point on works on the video, and let the video speak for itself. But not too shabby of a grouping aside from that flyer, considering I'm using a bench rest.
Alright, so this is my additional 5. I think the sights are pretty good. So we got the 19X. Let me go turn off the air handler. So it appears with the 19X, with these stock night sights, dead center is dead center. Now, when I shoot standing without the assistance of my bench rest, this is going to change a little bit. So what I'm going to have to do is improve my shooting, because anybody can shoot from that bench rest. Let's see if I can do any better standing. Now that I know that it's centered, the ammo can be a metric too. These are a little bit of a slower round, but I'm pretty happy with that grouping. So now when it comes down to it, I can't blame anybody but me for how the gun shoots. I will try and set up so I can film myself shooting and move on to my next one. So, I'm not going to lie to anybody. This is my grouping. CO5. This one was here. That bottom left one was here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, it's me that has to work on my shooting, not the gun. I'm going to do 5 more, see if I can tighten that grip up. We're just going to keep going. Here's the 3. I shot after the fact. Here's where I was hitting. Too high. A lot better this time. I'm going to do another few rounds off camera. I'm going to fill up a mag and see what's going on, because a couple times I had a failure to go into battery, and I think it's all the ammo because these are reloads. All right, I'll be back. All right, so I've been slinging lead down range, and I wanted to revisit the 22 conversion from my 45 here, the Advantage Arms. Today was mainly about 9mm. I've got a hostage target set up down there, and right out of the box, this dot sight, which I originally came down here the sight in, was dead on. What I did was I got some suppressor height sights for if I remove the dot. And then for the dot, what I did was I adapted a Ruger 1022 rail, getting the correct thread pitch in order to mount that onto the static top strap of the conversion, as this doesn't move with the gun, with the slide rather. So what I'm gonna do while I'm here, I have 10 more minutes left. I have 3 mags loaded up, ready to go, and I'm gonna shoot at the perpetrator here, mainly going for his head, and then what I'm gonna do is see how close I can get to the hostage in a safe manner. I'm not gonna film this so I can focus, and then I will show you my results of the 30 rounds and the 3 mags after. All right, so the hostage is dead. I hit her right here. That was when I was risking it all and trying to get him close. This one is being safe, aiming around here, trying not to hit her. Obviously I got 2 right in the eyebrow, so that's no good. Then I went after his hand, went after the target. So there's a little work to be done. Down here, I was just fooling around. Aside from that, this is no good, but it's always better to play it safe, it seems, and aim for the furthest amount from the hostage as you can get. I was trying to get him in the chest, neck area. So that was aiming here, so. And I was shooting quite rapidly. I hate the way I term that. I was shooting pretty fast. And that's it. Ozark Arms Rhino red dot, but I got the green dot. It can be either red or green. It's a nice little setup here for plinking around. 1 failure to feed, and that's it.